Subtle skills, big results.
Welcome to the Ninja Selling Podcast.
Hello, everybody. Happy fall and welcome to the Ninja Selling Podcast. You know, football season's here. Whatever you're into, the leaves are changing colors. Sweater weather has arrived, or for those of you in the warm places, maybe you wear less than 3 shirts in a day. But fall marks a lot of things for us, one of them being business planning season. And part of business planning season is that analysis of where am I today? And one of the benchmarks for ninjas every single year is that first week in October when the Ninja Planner goes on sale. It sort of marks the arrival of the coming year and the preparations that we're putting in throughout the fourth quarter. And so our guest today is Erik Hardy, somebody who has touched many of your lives, but you may not know exist. He is the creator of the Ninja Planner. So Erik, thank you so much for being here.
Rob, it's a pleasure. Thank you.
Yeah. And we're going to have a conversation about how you came up with this idea and the solidification of your own experiences into creating the planner. But I also want to talk about time management in general. Time management is a core principle inside of Ninja Selling. And yes, there is a detailed process called Pi Time. It's a comprehensive analysis and tracking mechanism for your time. And that is a podcast for a different day. We've actually talked about Pi Time many times. And I think we'll reference Pi Time today. But the reality of the situation is that there is a level of simplicity beyond Pi Time that the planner represents. And so let's talk about what was going on in Erik Hardy's life, who you were, what you were doing at the time that you felt the need to make a planner around the Ninja Selling system.
Yeah. So I'd been in real estate. Actually, I've been in real estate for 7 or 8 years and was doing pretty well. Had been to a number of installations. I was lucky enough to be at the home of Ninja Selling here at the group in Fort Collins. So had gone through every time Ninja installation would come up with Larry, and I would see it down going in our conference room down on the ground floor of the Harmony office. I would be sure to be in that because number of times, every time you hear it, you learn something more, and pick that up. And what I found was each time I go to that installation, I would be reinvigorated, have new knowledge, and I would go out, my business would pick up and things would be going well. But then I would almost get so much business that I would start to fall off, lose track, not be able to do the things that was generating that business. And I just kept falling in and out of that rut. I was riding that hamster wheel of up and down with my business. And it really came down to the notion of I need a better way, a system that I can make sure I'm staying on task, staying on target, spending my time in the right ways and doing all the things that generate my business. And it really came out of necessity to find something, a tool, a consistent tool that I could do that.
Yeah. At the end of the day, the system only works with application. Application is the result of what many people call accountability and being accountable to something or somebody. And yes, in many cases, we have an amazing mentor, we have a coach, we have somebody who holds us accountable, but not typically on a day-to-day basis. One of the most valuable human things to do is to journal or to look down at the end of the day and say, this is what was accomplished. And with equal value, this is what didn't get accomplished.
Right. That awareness, I think it comes down to awareness. The awareness is the key piece. And you can think, oh, I spent 8 hours at the office and I felt like I got a lot of stuff done. But then if you have the accountability piece and you can look down at your planner or at whatever you've kept track of at the end of the day and see, oh, you know what? I only made really 3 calls and I didn't do those CMAs. I was thinking like, where did all my time go? I thought I was busy. I was at the office, but I really didn't get anything done or very little done.
So you're a real estate agent, you're at the group, you're riding the roller coaster of success. I think oftentimes there's a perception that the agents at the group have fully implemented Ninja in their business. They're all crushing it and having an incredible life. But the reality is we're just people as well, right? And that roller coaster, which can be a roller coaster of emotion, it can be a roller coaster of income, and it can also be a roller coaster of satisfaction with our role. It has a very predictable cycle. And that cycle kind of looks like I learn something new, I start doing it, I do it consistently, I start to see results, I stop doing it, and then you're back in the basement of the Harmony office for another installation. And it's nobody's goal that attending the installation every single month when the parade comes to town is what somebody would do to stay on track. So you created this planner. I want you to walk us through. Now, our listeners will not be able to see, so we'll have to describe it. But describe what the planner is, how it works, because many have not attended an installation. And at an installation, you're given a copy of the Ninja Planner to get started with it. But give us a description of what's in there.
At its core, the Ninja Planner contains everything that you need to stay on working the Ninja system, stay on the Ninja path. So it has a spot to track your gratitudes, affirmations, your note cards that you write every week, your real estate reviews, your 50 forward and record contacts. Everything that you need is in there. And the great thing about it, it's why it's worked so well for me and works so well for many others, is the weekly view. You can look at your entire week at a glance and see everything. You're not scrolling through screens or doing anything else. So you know with a glance where you are for that week on the Ninja 9 and staying on the Ninja path.
Yeah. In essence, it's a tracker of your Ninja 9 activities that has an embedded calendar inside of it. It's 2 8.5 by 11 sheets of paper that are coil bound together that you would open to, and it represents your week. There's a couple of things I want to dive into, and we'll talk about the Ninja concepts behind them, how that influenced the Ninja Planner. The core product here is a Ninja 9 tracker. Simultaneously, that tracker is driven by the calendar. And what I mean by that is, and I'm a user, right? I use a Ninja Planner and I use a digital calendar. And the reason is collaboration versus my own time. So I'll kind of explain this and see if this resonates. But for anything that requires collaboration, I have to have a digital calendar, right? Because invites are a thing, and organizing a lot of different moving pieces and team members and the people that are involved in those, digital is the way to go. But the most valuable time management tool we have, and there's thousands of programs that teach you about time management, and one of the most universal time management principles is time blocking. And it is virtually impossible to be as on purpose as you need to be in time blocking without a piece of paper. So for me, my calendar starts at 5 a.m. and it ends at 10 p.m. I'm pretty clear on what I'm doing between 10 p.m. and 5 a.m. I do have a 5-month-old, so that could be disrupted. That said, the hours that are represented in our waking time space are either ours to use productively or ours to waste. And I have found that for me, taking the things on my digital calendar and putting them into my paper calendar helps me identify my utilization of time before it happens. And from there, some people time block ahead of time, and I have days blocked. That's how I do it. But some people also just fill in the spaces with when they're going to fit their Ninja 9 in there. And it doesn't really matter how you do that. The core concept of time blocking and looking at how you're going to allocate your time ahead of using it is really the beauty. So is there any color commentary for that?
I think that's exactly right. I also have both a digital and the Ninja Planner paper calendar that I use. And what I found is there is something about when you physically write it down in the planner, not only is it there and you have a visual reference, but it locks it in your mind in a different way than just trying to type it into your phone or do something like that would. And so it is so effective at being able to have one overview. So when you're sitting down, I sit down Sunday evenings and I look at the week that's coming ahead. And, some things are already on there because you've scheduled them in advance. So Sunday evening, you can kind of look, it gives you a visual representation. Then the other thing that I do is it gives me 5 minutes to just say, is there anything else that's coming up this week that I haven't written down, or that's kind of like, oh, it pops in your head, I need to do that, or I need to do that. You can then jot it down. And what it actually does, you mentioned those 10 p.m. to 5 a.m. hours. What it allows you to do is to sleep better, because you don't wake up in the middle of the night and think, oh, I got to do this. You take 5 minutes ahead of time, write that down, and then it's locked, and you'll become accustomed to, your mind will know that if I've written it in the planner, I know it's going to get done. And you have that reference, and you don't always have that. I don't think you have that with the digital calendar per se.
Yes. And for those of you that have been through the process of learning about and implementing the concepts of pie time, that's essential. If you aren't yet there and you're just saying, hey, I understand that I'm given the same 24 hours in a day as anybody else, and the amount of rest, the amount of productivity, the amount of relaxation, the amount of exercise, the amount of fellowship that I get is the same 24 hours as anybody else, and being intentional about that is important to me, then just start with simple time blocking.
One of the other thing is we all know that a task will take as much time as you give it, right? So if you go ahead and block out that time and say, okay, I have 30 minutes to get this done, and you've written it in your calendar, then that task will take 30 minutes. Whereas if you just say, oh, I got a completely open amount of time, open morning, well, guess what? Something that should take 30 minutes or 10 minutes will take an hour. And so I think it's really important when you block that time and made a plan of how you're going to spend it. That's generally what tends to happen.
Yeah. So time blocking is number one reason to use this, I feel. The second for me is if you live in the space that I do, a lot of moving pieces to my life, and I tend to be a little bit forgetful, or there's a whole bunch of things that factor into that, right? But let's just call it forgetful sometimes. I do not forget things in my calendar because I have transcribed my digital into print that day.
Right.
And so surprises and derailments and unexpected events are pretty infrequent. Now, granted, there have been plenty of times where I accepted a calendar invite in the moment, lands in my inbox. I'm thinking, yep, got to be part of that, accept. And it was out of mind immediately. And then I circled back and I didn't look like an idiot who missed the call or who was late or who was driving and had to join that way because I got a 15-minute ahead notification from Google.
Right.
Instead, I knew that morning that that was going to happen. And that just sets a course of how you show up in the world that is so much better than totally operating by accident.
Absolutely. I'll actually, you bring up something out. This is probably one of my most embarrassing stories, but I'm going to share it anyway. One of the huge catalysts and impetuses for me going to a paper planner versus digital is, I mean, I was a tech guy. I had the Google Calendar that was linked on my computer in front, like all of us do. And I literally missed going to an office mate's, one of my partner's weddings, because for whatever reason, the calendar invitation just disappeared. I had it blocked in my calendar. I knew I had put it in there. And then, you have that nagging feeling, oh, there's something I should be doing. I'm sitting at home on a Saturday. We're just having a relaxing day. And literally like 2 p.m, it hit me that, oh my gosh, we were supposed to be at a wedding. And I know it sounds extreme, but that was literally the point. I said, I can't do this. I can't have things that fall off like that. I don't know what happened. And so I immediately, now, if I write it in the planner, this is the kind of the catch-all. I know if it's in there, this is my reference, and I'm not going to miss something that I write down.
Do you have their anniversary written in your planner?
I do not, because I was actually so embarrassed that I missed the wedding. It was just like, oh my gosh, I can't believe it. And I have a huge regret about that, even still to this day.
Yeah. Well, let's go there, because the other piece of this is the Ninja 9 tracker. And one of the things about the Ninja 9, it can stump people, is I understand what the 9 daily and weekly habits are,
right,
but I don't know who to do them for. Who do I send notes to?
Right.
Okay, here's the answer. If you are time blocking and you are looking at what's in your calendar and who is getting that time, the answer to the Ninja 9 question is there somewhere. And this is going to feed itself if you're intentional about your time management.
Absolutely. And this is another tool when you're thinking about, well, first thing, we talked about business planning, but in October, what I always do is I write down all the known birthdays and anniversaries or anything that I know that I'm going to be sending cards to for that year. And I always put them in a week ahead so that I know I put that in the mail, then they'll get it during the right week. And you'll be surprised if you do that, you've already gotten a lot of half your note cards for the year done, scheduled, planned out. You know what's going to happen. And then because I've been using the planner for a number of years, I love to look back and think this is a great question, is what was I doing then a year ago? What was going on? So then you can look back. Of course, you keep track of closings and things, but maybe you went on a trip with a friend, or maybe you did something that's going to signal, oh, I could send them a note and just say, hey, you remember a year ago we were in Mexico enjoying a vacation, or a year ago we were at your daughter's graduation, and you can use the previous year's planner. You'll have so much of this already filled out on your Ninja 9 in terms of note cards that you're ahead of the game starting October. You don't have to think about it, and that's the beauty. Is what we don't talk about a tremendous amount of time, but I think is really important, is how much time you save just task switching when you have the Ninja Planner, because you don't have that moment of, oh, what am I supposed to do now? And then you pick up your phone and all of a sudden, like, you get lost in a message, or something cool on Instagram shows up, or any of those things. Like, literally, you're like, what am I supposed to do now? You look down at your planner and you can see all the different tasks that you need to do. And you're like, okay, I'll choose that one. I've got 10 minutes. I can pick this one. And you can just start picking them off. There is no distraction. You don't lose 10 minutes just figuring out how to refocus.
Yeah. One of the other things that I do inside of my planner, I think this is a little tips and tricks because I've used it for years. If you anchor back to Peter Parnig's idea of the word of the year, and he probably borrowed that from somebody else along the way, right? It's not revolutionary, but it can revolutionize your year.
Absolutely.
My word of the year for this year is mind your own business.
That's a forward.
There's a lot. Thank you. There's a lot to that. There's a whole podcast on when we were talking about word of the year and why mind your own business was my word of the year. There's a section in the Ninja 9 tracker in the planner where you have some blank lines, and they are just opportunities to track. And maybe there's, did I eat healthy? Did I drink enough water? Did I do some activity that roots me in the things that I want to have happen in my life? It's a lead indicator of an outcome that I look for down the road and I want to be tracking.
Right.
But for me, the word of the year, it just represents, did I spend even a second being mindful around that intention? And even if you haven't, looking through that tracker and spending one split second puts you in a different state than when you didn't have that top of mind.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Obviously, it's a tool that we use in the Ninja system, but it really is designed to keep track and organize your whole life. There are additional spaces. A daily routine is to look at your hot list and warm list daily, and to get exercise to keep your body feeling great. So those things are in there. But then we have 4 lines where you can track weekly different things you want. So for me, one of them is meditation, drink plenty of water. Maybe it's reading, whatever it may be. So for you, what's important that week that you want to keep track of? Because if you track it, then you become aware of it. And just like we're talking about with all this, you can say, oh, I'm above the game there. I'm below the game there. Where do I need to make improvements? And that sets you up for how you want to do next week. So I think that's a really important point, is look at this as kind of a whole life tracker.
One of the things about the planner, so I'm blessed to interact with many ninjas, right? We host courses here. I travel the country and see ninjas. It's a little bit of a status symbol in the ninja world. And when you run into somebody, it's not like people are just holding up their planner and showing that it's beat up because it's been carried every single day and that it's filled with more ink than anybody else's.
Right.
But there is and when I talk about status symbol, this is kind of an interesting observation that there's a direct correlation between the people who carry their planner and they have it with them and the results they create in their business.
Right.
And it's observational only, but I would say there is a direct correlation to your utilization of a planner or the Ninja Planner and your GCI.
I would agree. That absolutely happened for me. I mean, when I started using the planner, I literally doubled my income from the previous year just because it just kept me on task and on track. And that awareness piece is key. And the fact that you think you're going to the office, you're feeling busy because you're out there moving around doing all these different things. And then you realize, going back to pie time, like, how much am I just spending my time into this everything else time where I'm not focused on the Ninja 9 and the things that are going to generate business and generate income? And it really holds you accountable to staying on task.
I mean, the goal of Ninja Selling is to help you increase your income per hour so that you can have a life. And this entire concept is encompassed on 2 sheets of paper, 1 day and 1 week at a time.
Right. Absolutely.
So if somebody's never used the Ninja Planner before and they're saying, okay, I get it, and maybe they haven't been to an installation, they've read the book, they're listening to the podcast, what do they do to get a planner and get started using it?
Well, literally, it is your Ninja 9 at a glance at a weekly view. So, it's very straightforward. You get that. You start tracking your habits. You start looking at how you're spending your time. And even just the process of and initially starting and seeing, writing down, physically keeping track of how you're spending your time will make you very aware of when you're not spending your time in a productive manner to really increase your income per hour. So really, it's pretty simple. You just open it out of the package, start using it straight away, log in how you're spending your time, not just business things. Log, oh, okay, I got up and I spent 2 hours at home. So put your 2-hour time block on there. Put down when you exercise. Put down when you're doing some other things, especially initially, because you'll see that there's time leaking out here and there. And I'm not being efficient, not only in my business, but there's probably areas of your life where you're not being efficient. And that awareness will help you, increase the efficiency there, which will either give you more time to spend with your family and doing the things that you want to do, or more time for your business and focusing on the tasks that you need to take care of there to stay on target and on task.
Yeah, I agree completely. And for a more seasoned ninja, maybe they've experienced this, they've purchased the planner, they're using it. I want to share something that it probably doesn't qualify as a pro tip. It's probably more of an amateur tip. It's not the core reason the planner was created, but if there's one thing in the planner that gets skipped over and one thing in the Ninja system that gets skipped over, it is the 50 live forward. And it's not just your interviews, it truly is the record. And if you're like me, I talked about it. You know, I'm probably somewhere between neurodivergent and forgetful, but I have a lot of balls in the air in my life. And I have found that if it gets put down on paper in the same place, a place that is sacred, it's not a sticky note, it is not a random loose leaf piece of paper that blows out when I open the door to my car, but it's in that planner. If you can document either the 50 forward conversations that you're having or the 50 forward conversations you're not having, you're going to begin to identify where the real opportunity to make change in your business right now lies.
Yeah, there's really two things that come to mind when you talk about that with the 50 forward and record calls. It's not only writing them down when you have them in the moment, and on that, you'll see that there's actually a spot for you. You name the person, what did you talk about? And then if there's a follow-up task, and we actually put a little checkbox on there so that you see that and think, oh, I can check it as in that's taken care of. There's not a follow-up task, but there is one. And if there is one, you leave that unchecked so that you know. And then you can use that when you're doing your forward and record follow-up calls, maybe the next week if there's a task you need to take care of. But the other thing that comes up is you can write down who you need to talk to ahead of time. So especially if you're in the middle of a transaction or there's a buyer or seller that you need to follow up with, and you're going to need to follow up with them in a week, then write that down in your following week for a forward and record call so that you already have that listed, so that when you go to that sheet, you'll have 10 or 15 calls already lined out for the next week. And again, we talked about, as you mentioned, forgetfulness. Once you've written it down there, then you're not going to forget it, right? It's not going to slip through. So I always keep my planner on my desk open, and then I have the forward and record sheet there so that anytime I'm doing whatever task and somebody's name pops in my head that I need to call, I can jot that down on my forward and record sheet, know that it's locked in and ready to go, and then I can refocus on the task at hand. Whereas, you get distracted and that little call person floats away and you forget to do it. And so just having it there is so key, and it will save you so much time.
That is just next level intention. I had never considered mapping out. I'm very reactive with forward. I encounter a lot of people. I have that forward conversation, many times it just floats away, right? That person told me they had a 50th anniversary or something special happened in their life, and you think, oh man, I should put that. Here's the reality. When you're looking at how interconnected the Ninja 9 really is, it needs to be a combination of online and offline. And to put a bow on it, this whole thing sort of fits in habit number 9, which is update your database. I think a lot of people think update your database is make sure you have all the right contact information, or that you're adding new people to your database so that they can get your auto flow. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about identifying change in their lives or moments in which you could anchor back to in future communication. As you reference their forward, there's nothing that makes somebody feel more special than you actually remembering their kids' names or where their kids are going to school or what they have going on. And you don't have to have this amazing Rolodex in your head. You have to have a system. And that system feels like writing it down in a centralized place where you know it's going to be, and then every week time blocking to update your database so that these opportunities to make people feel incredible because they matter to you are not lost.
Yeah, and just think about how good it feels if you've time blocked time to do your forward and record calls. Some people say they time block and they're like, well, I don't know who to call. Well, if you've written down when those ideas come to you, or you've planned out ahead who you need to call that week, and you have those already written down, then you already have the leap. So that time comes up and you're immediately into making those calls. You're not thinking about and stressing about who do I call next, who do I call. You'll have 15 or 20 forward and record calls already lined out for the next week. You can do that weeks, months ahead. If you know birthdays and you're a person that wants to call somebody on their birthday, put them down on your forward and record sheet way ahead of time. And so you're not staring at a blank page when it comes time to make your forward and record calls.
One suggestion would be when your friend gets married, you could put their wedding date on there ahead of time and then look at how your life would be different. You'd still have friends.
Yeah, no kidding. I would, yes, that's still,
So Erik, if somebody wants to get started with a Ninja Planner, we know that they come available the first week of October. Where do they go? What do they do? How do they get one in their mailbox?
So the easiest thing is you can go directly to ninjaplanner.com, and that will take you to the Ninja store. You can order your planner there. If you've gotten Ninja planners in the past and you receive email updates from us, you'll get a notification then. If you're on the Ninja Selling email update system, you'll get a notification via your email. So there will be multiple ways to get those.
Yeah. So if you are not yet subscribed to notifications or emails from Ninja Selling, you can just go to ninjaselling.com. In the upper left, there's a subscribe. You just put your email in there. We don't send spam. Once in a while, we'll let you know things like the planner are available, but it'll also add you to our weekly action tips and invitation to the monthly Ninja sales meeting. So Erik, if they go to ninjaplanner.com, they order this thing, what does it entail?
On the store, you'll have the option between actually 3 versions of the Ninja Planner. We've been talking about the Bound 2026 Ninja Planner Bound, and with that, you'll receive a bound planner and also the forward and record notepad. We have an unbound version that's designed specifically to fit in a 3-ring binder of your choice. And if you order that version, you'll get the Ninja Planner Unbound. It has all of the same pages. That's just designed for your own 3-ring binder. You also receive the forward and record notepad. And then we do offer a digital version of the Ninja Planner that is specifically designed to be used on a Remarkable tablet or an iPad or something running GoodNotes or some other note-taking software. But a really important thing here is as we've been talking, it is not designed to be an interactive style of calendar in which you put something in there and it syncs with all of your other, email and Google calendars. It's a standalone product, just like a paper planner would be, but available on your Remarkable or for an iPad.
For more information on all of them, just visit ninjaplanner.com. There's tutorials that take you through best practices, how to use it, how to get going, and especially on the digital, it gives you sort of an overview of.
Right. All the details are there. You can see the 3 versions and see which one's going to work best for you.
Erik, thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate it. Is there anything you'd like to leave the ninjas with as we wrap this one up?
Yeah, if I could leave you with one thing, it's this notion of time management, really becoming aware of where your time is going and how you're spending it. And if the Ninja Planner is the right tool for you, then by all means, please use a tool to make sure and understand how you're spending your time and staying on task with the Ninja system.
Love it. Thanks so much. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, Rob.
If you enjoyed this episode, visit us at theninjasellingpodcast.com to learn more about ninja selling classes and coaching to get you started or further your journey on the ninja path.
Thank you for joining us. Now go have an incredible day.